Welcome back to another episode of Cybersecurity Insights. I'm your host Aaron, and today we have an exciting topic lined up for you. Joining us today are James and Jeremy. James is the Group CEO of Performance Data Asia, a regional IT company based in Singapore, and Jeremy Kuan, an established consultant with multiple disciplines from ITSM, OCM to AI and business leadership, who will share their insights and experiences. So let's get started and uncover what it takes to safely and effectively integrate Copilot into your company. Stay tuned. How can Copilot enhance productivity and efficiency within a company?
There's a lot of areas that Copilot can assist with organizations' productivity and efficiencies. Namely, when you're looking at, for example, you're managing your emails, right? Copilot can help you organize your emails, help you start off your emails, provide content for your emails, and do it in such a way that really it's unheard of before Copilot exists, right? You can actually tell Copilot, I want a very formal sounding email, right? And it will be able to produce to you content that's aligned towards a formal business email versus something that you want to have less formal. Maybe you want to sound more friendly, more warm, more opening to your people in the organization. Then you can actually ask it to produce such emails as well. So such productivities and efficiencies with Outlook itself really garners any organization to look at Copilot seriously in helping them with whatever they need in terms of content.
So if I might add, personally myself, sometimes when I check into work, I just run Copilot. Hey Copilot, tell me what's the key emails that I should pay attention, anything that they are marked urgent, or any of my tasks that I have created is expiring today. And it's able to list out a list of emails, just a summary, the gist of the email, and also the task for today that I've added on. Or if someone assigns me a task, I would also be able to say that I would like to summarize for me emails from a VIP customer, for example, because at the time maybe I have a project and it will list out all the emails from the customer. I think that's very helpful for me because I can step into the office and start focusing on what's important immediately. The other thing that I use Copilot for is Teams. I think you guys also use it, Teams, where we can have a meeting and can talk about whatever we want to say, and then we can recreate create on the fly a Copilot generated meeting minutes, which is very impressive. I did this for a customer, and after the meeting I sent to them the meeting minutes in a couple of minutes. They're like, how did you do that? So yeah, this is really something, as you mentioned, it's something that is not what we were empowered with or can empower our people in the past.
Yes, exactly, James. I mean, one recent project that I was involved with, I wasn't the project manager, but the project manager was having a discussion pre-meeting, and he was assigning tasks. One of the tasks that was assigned was, who's going to take meeting minutes? And I was telling him, no one, right? Today, that should not be a need. You shouldn't have somebody distracted by taking minutes.
Yeah.
When there are tools such as Copilot that can do the job and do it very well.
Yeah.
It can put in the names, it can put in the who's responsible, additional tasks, really, as long as you formulate the prompt correctly,
Yeah.
It will do it for you, right? Rather than, making somebody busy just for the sake of being busy.
That's true. Yeah, that's the amazing thing about Copilot. And I worked with you, Jeremy, a couple of times, seeing customers, and we also visited GovWare, I think. And there are a lot of buzzwords out there about AI, and I think something that you are very particular in or particular with. Maybe you want to share with the audience what you think about that. People generalizing AI.
Yes, I mean, this is where Copilot plays a huge part as well, right? We are very familiar with the chat GPTs. We are very familiar with, especially right now, in February 2025, we're all talking about DeepSeek as well. A lot of these generative AI models are out there. They are typically out there to help create content, right? Whether be it textual content or images or videos or music, and even code, right? And we are seeing a lot of areas where certain models are far exceeding others, right? We've heard that certain models can produce code, but it doesn't have a proper control in terms of the code security. So we all know security by design, right? Whenever we do code, we have to keep that in mind. But you have to understand that whatever you feed it with, whatever you're requesting it with, has to be very accurate in that sense. So prompt engineering is a piece which is very close to my heart, and I coach a lot of people to understand what is prompt engineering all about. But we have to take a step back and understand as well that, you know, some people may have problems with language. English may not be their first language. Here's another piece where Gen AI is really great at, right? Where Copilot is engaged within or immersed within the actual Microsoft M365 tools. We are far from in the past where we utilize translation tools, web tools and all that to translate language. That's all very, you know, an apple directly to an apple in a different language. But with the beauty of Gen AI, it's very contextual. You can tell it, okay, I want this document to be translated to something that is palatable or acceptable by someone in mainland China, right? And it will give you that. So imagine the power of it if you are in a company that is an MNC, global locations, you have to communicate with people in other countries that do not share the same first language. Using Copilot to translate is fantastic because you do not lose the context of the message. Whereas, like I said, you know, the traditional translators and all that, you will lose the context of it. So where AI is concerned, that's the other thing about Copilot. We're talking about Copilot being able to analyze data that you have on site and providing you all the analytics, the key takeaways and all that you require from data that you have. For example, whatever documents that you have on OneDrive or SharePoint and all that. It can take all of that data. So that's the AI piece of it where it analyzes, does key takeaways and all that from whatever data that you have. Versus prompt engineering, I want to, you know, generate content. That's generative AI. And that's where we have fantastic results from people using Copilot to do, like what I've mentioned, translation, contextual, as in business versus warmth. So it's like external facing emails versus internal emails where you want to share information, you want to sound warm, you want to sound approachable and not sound too business, right? Because your people may not have a very welcoming emotional response when you're talking to them too businessy. Too business-like, right?
Makes sense.
So that's the AI and the Gen AI functionalities that Copilot can achieve for any organization.
Wow, you can actually ask Copilot to write something also based on emotions.
Yeah, exactly. So you can tell it, you know, I mean, for sake of example, you can tell, okay, I'm very angry, right? Somebody has done something wrong. I'm very angry, and write an email that will you know, tell somebody off that he's done a job badly. I mean, I don't recommend it, but but it can, you know, give you that kind of context, that kind of emotion in the email, accordingly, right, to what you request. So you can come off as, okay, I need to send an email out emphatically to staff that has recently lost someone. It can do the job as well.
I see. So I could write, say I'm addressing a group of people who are my elders, so I need to express something respectively and professionally, and these are my contexts.
Yes.
And then they will, based on that emotion that I've input into my question, into my, how do you call
Prompt.
it? Prompt.
Into the prompt,
My
yeah.
prompt, it will generate based on what I want
Correct.
to output,
Correct.
output for me. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, there's just too many things to talk about. When you talk about AI and Copilot, there's so many ways of using it, as you have rightly pointed out, and of course, understanding the terms of generative AI and what's the other AI you say? Generative
Versus AI
A-
itself.
just AI
Yeah.
itself and generative AI. It's a world of difference, I guess. So, generative AI is where you actually allow people to scour your data and create something out of your data to generate a response.
Content. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm sure everyone has this, many people have this question. So we would like to know, are there any key indicators to know that the company is ready to implement Copilot actually?
Well, I would say that any organization would be ready for Copilot when they are looking to improve their productivity. Right. The key takeaway is: do you want people to spend time thinking about how to formulate emails, thinking about how to create documents, templates, and spending the actual time to produce those templates? So imagine, for example, you want to create a document for certain policies within an organization, be it HR, safety, data management, and all that. I'm not proposing that you get Gen AI to produce or Copilot to produce a whole document, but at least it can help you with what are the key topics to cover, what are the key areas to cover, what are the areas, for example, if it's related to regulatory compliance, right? You need to make sure that those areas are covered in your document. And all you need to do is just include it in the prompt when you're asking Copilot to produce these documents for you, and the basics, the fundamentals will all be included, right? Without spending any time. I mean, it's a matter of minutes that the templates can be produced for you. So, do you want to spend 3 hours? If someone is good, they can produce a document within like 2-3 hours. But do you really need to spend that 2-3 hours when it only takes you a couple of minutes to formulate the prompt, tell Copilot, hey, this is what I want. I need to comply with XXX compliance, regulatory compliance within the country that you're in. And like I said, in minutes, the whole template is there. And thereafter, your SMEs can go in and put in the finer details. Right? You imagine the productivity savings. Every document, every email, every PowerPoint, you are saving 2-3 hours each time.
Yeah.
What is the savings, right? So, are there any organizations that should not start? I would say no, because as long as you are in the business of producing such content within the organization, be it internal consumption or consumption by your direct and indirect customers, you need to have some level of professionalism, some level of standardization, which Copilot can help you with.
Yeah, so let's say these companies are already on board. So how do they evaluate whether their current IT infrastructure can actually support Copilot?
Okay, what's important is that, as Jeremy has pointed out earlier, that generative AI actually takes out data from your company shareholders, company folders. All the information that you have worked in the past are stored into your storage, okay, data storage. And what Copilot does is that it will go through those data to provide you with information based on your prompts to generate the answers for you. So with that in mind, we definitely need to have cybersecurity in place first. So we're talking about data protection. that's where you classify your data. Where you have to have practice of classifying your data. If you haven't classified your data yet, then you may have a risk of exposing secrets to whoever you empower Copilot with, especially generative Copilot that's being used by companies. Yeah. So that, to me, as a cybersecurity specialist, is what is the most important one. And a lot of customers are not aware of that. They use AI like ChatGPT and free Copilot, and they start asking questions, and hey, this is good, right? And then they start buying M365 Copilot for their staff. That Copilot is generative Copilot, and it will expose data if you do not protect it, if you do not classify data, and if you do not have a proper privilege management, data privilege management. Then you get an HR person getting information from finance, and you get finance people knowing how much someone is earning every month and the bonuses and all that. That's going to be catastrophic for the company. Implosion will start happening.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Governance and control is very close to my heart. Having many government clients through the years, and there's two sides of the coin, right? The first side of the coin is, Copilot being Gen AI, being AI based. There's a lot of FOMO behind it. A lot of people say, I need these kind of tools in my environment now, right? And then there are companies that have the overly risk averse, and they are looking at it and say, no, actually, I don't want any of such tools within the environment because of such data leak. But being somebody that's ITSM based, that does consult in these areas, it's really very straightforward. Now look at the period of time. Okay, I'm probably old enough. Looking back at a period of time before email, what's the policies in place, right? There's nothing stopping somebody from sending out an email filled with your customers' data and or some secret data within your organization. So what does that tell you? First thing is, do you have a proper data management practice or policy, right? That would be first and foremost to be put in place, and include how you handle Gen AI or AI tools, right? Nothing's going to stop, like what James mentioned, nothing's going to stop somebody in finance using Copilot. And because of how Copilot is driven, whatever that person has access to, he or she can produce analytics, content, Word document, Excel spreadsheet, pivot tables, based on the data that he or she has access to, right? But what's stopping her from sending that in an email to Aaron, right? There's nothing, right? The email is not going to stop being sent out, right? It can track and can tell you after the fact, but by then Aaron would have taken the data and made full use of it, maybe insider trading and stuff, to gain the advantage from that. But if you have, like I said, if you have a proper data management practice or policy, and everybody is aware of this communicated clearly to everyone through a proper OCM or organizational change management practice, right? Everybody signs off, they know what's happening, like how email is handled. You don't open malicious email, you don't click on links on malicious email. Likewise, you don't send out sensitive data through email as well. And that should be how we treat AI and Gen AI. It's nothing different. There's nothing rocket science about it, right? It's basically the same policy. You don't try and ingest data into Copilot that is sensitive. If you're working on company secrets, don't use it. You can use replacement data if you want to produce reports or whatever, but stay away from sensitive data, right? and you should be fine. So how Copilot protects it? There's facilities within or functionalities within M365 like Microsoft Purview for you to actually manage your data, and that is one way that you can, at a certain level, manage your data through your data management practice or policy, right? But eventually, the awareness has to be there. Everyone has to be aware and understand the implications of the data that they are handling.
Other measures that we can talk about is just that it's a very big topic to discuss. We'll not be able to cover in one session, but we may be able to cover it in our next session, more focus on that discussion. But I think we did mention about most of the key points: data classification, OCM, change management, ensuring that everyone are on board when it comes to data classification to prevent accidental finds through Copilot, generative Copilot. Yeah.
So, how can companies ensure compliance with data privacy regulations, for example, GDPR and CCPA?
Well, that's the beauty about Copilot, right? And any generative AI tool out there. Whenever you start off with your data management practice or policy, all that has to be in place. What are the requirements that is needed? What are reporting requirements that are needed? With all those factors in place within your data management policy or practice within the organization, and that itself is being communicated clearly through your own OCM practice within the organization, that would actually ensure compliance. And as with any practice or policy that you put in place, the key things that you need to put in place are as well are the management of that document itself, versioning, right? What frequency it is, how you manage the updatedness of the document, who will be responsible for it. All those details will be outlined has to be outlined within that document. So there's no question about whether it's my job or your job or James' job or Aaron's job and all that. That shouldn't be anything that's open for question within the life cycle of that document itself, right? So how frequent do you check? What are the requirements for these policies or these regulations? All that has to be in as well, clearly stated. What's the duration that you check? Who is to check? What are the roles assigned to each individual, right? And with that, being audited regularly within the organization itself. So somebody has to be able to, be called upon to say, okay, you may not have your organization may not be huge enough to have a big internal audit department. You can call for external auditors. You can assign this to a certain specific stakeholder, but that stakeholder must understand that is his or her responsibility at what time frame. Right. With that in mind, you will always be ensured to be within the regulatory requirements for any such data controls, and that's one thing that Microsoft can help you as well, right? You can actually prompt it to produce all of these requirements within your practice template, and it'll be there for you to fill out the details.
So, what are the more common cybersecurity risks associated with AI tools like Copilot?
Besides those issues or those risks that we spoke about earlier, okay, we will also have to look at very basic things, okay, things like a firewall to fortify your infrastructure. You also want to protect accounts that is used by certain staff of yours with multi-factor authentication or VPN access, VPN and multiple factor authentication as well, because people can always take a machine and log in if he happens to know the password. Or I've seen this very often. My staff machine was left open and somebody could just go there and do something. So what I always do is I open up the Word document and say you have been hacked, and left it there for them to see. So yeah, I mean that kind of thing is important. And besides that, there are other things like mobile device management. You have mobile phones, iPad, staff use iPads and all that. I think Microsoft 365, M365 provide that security with Intune. Yeah, with Intune you can monitor that. And I think also what I would suggest is that you should also have endpoint protection. Endpoint protection protects people against antivirus and phishing and things like that. Also, if you have the endpoint protection and the endpoint detection and response (EDR) in short, by Symantec in particular, you'll be able to monitor what endpoints are doing, because someone might have your laptop and try to do something, malicious. That will be detected by the monitoring team. So that is one thing that you have to put as well, at minimum, because if you empower your computer to have access to certain company data, you want to protect that device because it's the window, it's a new backdoor Trojan. It's a new backdoor Trojan.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add on to it, with the advent of tools like Copilot, it's no longer a case where malicious actors gain access to your endpoint. Traditionally they still have to take a long time to identify where and what data is available to that person.
Yeah.
But with Copilot, it's no longer a case. Once a malicious actor has access, utilizing Copilot, that's the scary bit.
Yep.
So you do need to protect your endpoint, ever more so with the deployment of Copilot. It is a productivity tool. It helps you with analysis and generating content from all the data that you have access to. Helps you a lot, but you have to be careful that your system is protected.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, low-hanging fruits, companies with M365 can actually start to put their data on SharePoint, number one. Number two, they have to start classifying their data. They have to control the privileges. They have to ensure that administrators' passwords are strictly for systems and not someone who can access to the to Copilot because to the data and use Copilot to generate, because administrators basically have access to a lot of things. Yeah. And the other layer of protection would be the classification of the data, meaning to say that they classify something, nobody can have access to it except for certain members of leadership. And besides that, the other low-hanging fruit would be for them to be able to ensure, if they have Intune, they will be able to control their mobile devices. And if they have things like E3 and above, Microsoft E3 and above, they have antivirus protection called Windows Defender, and that also has endpoint protection built in as well. Yeah, so these are the things that they should minimally have, and those are really actually low-hanging fruits.
By the way, what training programs should be implemented to help employees adapt to using Copilot?
There are certain training platforms online, which also includes KPIs, so that staff will have to go in there and get their KPIs met. Okay, that's very important for companies, because oftentimes if you don't have that, it gets sidelined. Training programs could cover the basics of using Copilot, the basics, data security practices, those things. Inter-department needs to practice data protection. That means they need to, as you mentioned earlier, they need to have a process to classify their data, their documents. And of course, change management strategies, which is Jeremy's expertise, includes clear communication involving employees in processes and providing continuous support. Maybe Jeremy want to drill deeper into change management.
Yes, I think one of the very important key pieces is organizational change management, not your typical IT change management. It has to be driven internally, right? A lot of times I see clients engaging SIs, partners, and all that to perform the OCM piece, but that is critical to success. I mean, think of it this way: you may be successful in that point at that point in time, right? But with any organization, there's attrition, there are people moving around. What happens then, right? You have to have the training and effective use of all of these tools, which you continually pay for, to be put in use at any point in time. When you have new staff, when you have people getting promoted to different levels, to different roles, assigned to different roles and all that. So it's very important that your change management is driven internally and effective as a day-to-day practice, and not something that is engaged on a specific point in time or specific product.
Yeah, I remember we had a meeting with a customer and you pointed out about change management is not a job of IT department. That was very funny. Maybe you can elaborate about that.
Yes, exactly. I mean, typically, like I said, a lot of companies they include OCM as part of the contractual deliverables for certain solutions, right? And beyond that, a lot of times business stakeholders are the ones that also expect IT to effect these changes as OCM as well. However, that's never a case, because who is the one that actually should be driving all of this should not be IT, because IT have their own perspectives. It's not about responsibility, it's not about resource management, but it's basically the perspective of it. It's a lot more difficult for a business stakeholder or business user to understand the changes, especially technical changes or digital transformation changes. So having a technical person, an IT person, formulate all the communication and all that, you will end up with practically useless materials for your communication, for your change management practice as well. So that should be driven outside of IT.
Yeah.
Right, and I see the successful organizations that handle it, their change management committee or council are run out of legal, run out of HR, and they are very effective, right? And this is something that you need to take into consideration seriously as well.
Yeah. So that basically melts down any kind of positive project, and to make matters worse is when people invest in expensive solutions. I don't want to mention names of the solutions, and then failed in the change management, and then people start blaming the guy who put the system up, but in actual fact, the OCM is not in place properly for that change to kind of support the positive implementation of a solution that would make a company more competitive in the market, more advanced in the market. So this is really a sad thing to know that when people do not put in the right process for changes, everything they invested in goes down to the drain.
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So another story I have is for a finance system, right? So we are all everyone is expected to update their budgets for the period of time, right? And perfectly, we had finance people assigned to handle the change, but no one outside of finance. There's a problem, right? So you end up with communications that's very finance jargon heavy. Right? What happens to that? When it comes down to, for example, I'm in IT. When I see the document, I have no heads or tails about it because, different companies handle different finance differently, right? So it's not something where you learn it in company A, it's transportable or transferable to company B,
Yeah.
because finance practices are very individualistic. So what happens is, every time we have to update our budgets, whether it's half yearly or yearly, whole bunch of us start swearing because we don't understand the documentation, we don't understand the process. So what happens is that each one of us have to park ourselves with somebody in finance to get the job done.
Wow.
So guess how many people there are in finance? Obviously not enough to cover everybody.
Yeah.
So is that a failed OCM? Yes, that's a perfect example of failed
Absolutely,
OCM,
yes.
where you get the wrong people to do it, right? So if you get IT people, just as bad.
Yeah.
Right? You get finance people, just as bad. You should employ somebody or engage somebody that's outside of that arena or that subject matter to produce content, help with the content production, with the help of Copilot, of course, that helps a whole bunch,
Yeah.
right? And communicate that with your OCM practice. So your OCM practice will have different types of communication channels, different types of engagements, which certain software, certain implementations would require certain types or multiple types of engagements. So that's a key in how you develop your OCM practice.
Which metrics should be tracked to measure the success of Copilot implementations?
Well, with any OCM practice, you should have a standard set of metrics that is visible to all relevant stakeholders and leadership team as well. It should not be specific or to different tools. It should be agnostic to the different tools. So it really depends on what is your business objectives. What are you trying to achieve with all of these changes, right? And that's how you should set up your metrics, your dashboards, to make all of this transparent to everyone and not just within the OCM council or committee.
And for continuous improvement, I guess people who are using it daily, if they find some successes in the way they use AI, they could actually go to build like a roadshow, as you mentioned, to share with their colleagues how they have been doing using AI and how successful they have been and how productive they have become. I think continuous improvement is driven by people who are using it as well, because every time you learn something new, I myself, when I use Copilot, initially I start to use it and I realized, hey, I can do this as well. If I can do this, I can do this. And I tried and it worked. Like, for example, I received a PowerPoint presentation and a matter of that is not in my field, right? I'm not expert in that slide, but it was important for me. So I took a snapshot and I asked Copilot, I say I'm a layman, can you digest this slide for me and give it to me in layman term? And it did wonders. I understood that PowerPoint presentation slide immediately. This is a very powerful tool.
Yes.
So I will share that with my colleagues, my peers. They say, hey, I can do this, so can you. So a roadshow, yeah, it's good. Like, we should encourage people to share with each other. And I think it's good for departments heads to encourage that and give some kind of reward for that, because it helps that department perform better. So, in terms of monitoring, I would also want to add about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is 24 hours, and threat actors, bad actors, they do not rest. They keep on coming out with new things. So updating your security devices is very important. So monitor your updates. So some companies have security operation centers, most don't yet. Those people who do not have people monitoring for them whether an update is done or not should go in once in a while to check and ensure they have the latest firmware, or at least it was successfully updated. Sometimes if you leave it to automation, it might not work. And the other thing that people should be be more concerned about is like they should monitor behavior of endpoints, what they're doing with the Copilot. Something funny because some people might get bright ideas and try something, and then you can use, if you're monitored, then you can actually implement a prompt or a notification with your managed security service provider, MSSP, to say if something like this happened, we need to know. For example, right? I have a customer who has merged with 3 different companies, and it seems like it's not a symbiotic merger. So they are doing the same thing. So, and different company have different ownership, and some people have bigger share in certain companies. So there's conflict of interest. So they ask me, can I see what my peers are doing? You know what they're looking for and things like that. Why not? You can. So you can actually, continuously also monitor what people are doing by putting in place certain prompts, certain notification for prompts. Something's happening, and at least you can try to monitor if someone's trying to do something funny internally even.
Yeah, I think that's a very very valid point because whether we try not to think about it or we try to debate amongst ourselves about it, the fact is a lot of malicious actors are internal driven.
Yes.
So yes, your point is we have to be very wary in terms of how all of these tools. Copilot, and like I mentioned earlier on, even your email, any possibility that you are trying or someone is trying to send out, export sensitive data to the organization, whether through getting analysis or content through Copilot, or whether you already have access to financial systems and all that, and you're sending it out through email. So the fear is always more so from internally driven malicious actors than from external.
And that wraps up today's episode of Cybersecurity Insights. We hope you found a discussion on rolling out Copilot in your company both insightful and informative. Remember, implementing AI tools like Copilot can significantly increase your business operations, but it's crucial to ensure your data and IT systems are prepared for a secure and smooth transition. If you have any burning questions or issues you'd like us to address, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send us an email at above here. Your feedback and questions help us create content that matters to you. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes on the latest trends and insights in cybersecurity and technology. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.